Hey everyone, welcome back to Your Money Your Life podcast. We're at episode 235 of the podcast. Special week, fun week. We're going to get right into it. But before we get into it, make sure you like, subscribe, 5-star rate and review. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, if you're watching on YouTube, do the same thing. Also leave a comment and also hit the notification bell on YouTube. Let's get right into our first subject of the day, which is going to be the market first and foremost. Actually, let's give a little brief update on what's going on past 5 days. It's actually been kind of an exciting time the past 5 days because the Fed has come out with more statements, with more indication of what's going on. And they pretty much stated that they're looking for a rate cut is on the table, right? We mentioned the rate cut, and now it looks like it's on the table. The Fed funds rate, which has been between a range for a good amount of time. They've kept steady, and now they think they've seen enough on inflation. They think they've seen enough damage and slow and deceleration in the job market to now make a change to the policy that's been going on for several months. And now they look like they could potentially do a rate cut in September. That's a potential thing, hasn't been set in stone, but they're moving towards a more dovish outlook, especially with the most recent statements. What does that mean? The market cheered that pretty much. Yesterday was a large day for a lot of the risk on trades, the magnificent seven, which is a lot of your big tech companies. So in general, the market was pulled forward and up yesterday. In the past 5 days, because of that strong day yesterday, is actually up higher, almost 2 percentage points. Last month has been good. Again, year to date, really strong. So for investors, it's been a strong year. And that's again why we say invest for the long term. Because if you try to time all these things, you're gonna pretty much miss the big jumps. Like all the big jumps, if you talk about like volatile assets happen within the span of a few days, you're not gonna get it if you try to time that few days, which may come at any time over the course of several weeks, several months, right? And so that's one of the big things about investing for the long term and trying to stay on a path. So let's get into more of what they said. They did say they're on course for a rate cut in September. At the conclusion of the meeting this week, which concluded Wednesday, the first rate could come in September, which would be the first rate cut in 4 years. The Fed has not cut rates in 4 years. The central bank has kept its key rate at the two-decade high of 5.25% to 5.5% for a year to fight inflation. Remember, they're doing this to fight inflation. If they increase the cost of borrowing, increase the cost of saving, this will stop people from spending more than likely, and it would stop prices to go up. Super simple economics. If a lot of people there's a lot of demand, the price will go up. When demand lowers, the price goes down. I learned that in economics, and we all did. So, while describing the price of growth, the pace of price of growth has only somewhat elevated, the Fed said in a statement that this slackening allows it to pay more attention to the condition of the labor market. Remember the two mandates: keep inflation under control, keep people employed. And so now there's going to be able to begin to change their focus and look at, actually look at what the job market's doing. So that's a big, big statement. Policymakers are going to become increasingly worried about the employment picture after laser focus on inflation over the first over 2 years. The Fed's preferred price gauge has fallen to within a half percentage point of its 2% annual goal. So remember, the 2% target is what they want to get to. They're really close to that on a year over year basis. The unemployment rate, meanwhile, has risen for 3 consecutive months to 4.1%. If that gets well over 4%, then that's something that means that they're getting too out of range of the employment target as well. So Fed Dave Powell appropriately said, this lady said Powell appropriately stated that the situation is very unusual and unique, and that we can't just blindly apply statistical regularity of the past. And they have to look at some different situations and look at some different data points. So that's really, really what's going to happen. So September will be big if we see um, rate cut move, which I think has primarily been already priced into the market. The market's really expecting it. If we see that happen, it'll be as expected for the market, maybe as normal flat. If we don't see that happen, you could see a correction because the market is really, really anticipating that as of right now. So that's the big news when it comes to the stock market. And if you look at it, Bill Ackman, who runs a you know profitable hedge fund, he was going to IPO this hedge fund, and he's actually withdrawing those plans. So he was going to IPO earlier this week. They had a roughly $2 billion offering, a steep drop from as much as 25 billion floated previously. The IPO would have allowed investors to buy into a roughly 12 stock U.S. portfolio. um, into roughly a 12 stock US portfolio. Ackman, who had pitched the IPO over 150 meetings with potential investors over several weeks, said he would report back once he's ready to launch a revised transaction. So he pulled back his IPO. They downscaled. I think it's because the valuation has pretty much been humiliatingly downscaled. He had scrapped the whole thing and said he's just going to stay private. He'd vowed to return with some kind of new structure that would entice investors. So he pretty much tried to shop the IPO and thought it would bring in a lot of interest and institutional interest, and it didn't seem to go the way he planned. So he's scrapping these plans to do this initial public offering and maybe just returning to revising things and getting back to the drawing board before he goes back to the public markets again to raise equity, to raise money. So happens. It's unfortunate in that situation for him, but we'll see. I mean, this stuff does happen, and it's part of the path of business. So Taco Bell is revamping its drive-through. So Taco Bell is all in on AI at drive-throughs. They're saying it will add an AI voice technology to in hundreds of its restaurants by the end of the year. The tech is currently used in roughly 100 locations across 13 states, though Taco Bell won't clarify exactly how many of its 7,400 stores would get the upgrade. So Taco Bell is now adding AI voice, which I think is a decent idea. Listen, I don't know if you guys saw it. There's been a big hype on Twitter on social media about friend.com. It's a hardware device that's like AI algorithm best friend that you wear on your neck, a necklace around your neck. It's not even, it's pre-launch, it hasn't even ordered, but they raised roughly $2 million and they spent like three-quarters of that 2 million on the domain friend.com. They bought that domain. And now they launched a viral video online that shows how this friend.com would work. I say all that to say this AI is going to be increasingly a part of all business and all transactions and all what we do, right? Everyone should be learning how AI can best serve them. As of now, I've done that and will continue to do so. You're researching, you're understanding what tools you can use with AI to make your business, to make yourself more efficient. I think that's going to happen. It's definitely going to be happening with these big companies who are seeing the cost of labor increase, the cost of jobs, the cost of wages increase, and looking at how technology can help make them more efficient, especially in a cost perspective. And so that's definitely going to be the biggest driver of the next 5 to 10 years for all companies and all people. So that's just something people should be aware of. And Taco Bell seemingly is doing it. So this Chris dude tried it out. He said, like most innovation is a work in progress with iterative improvements being made frequently. And he said it's impressive. In this video, his goal was to see how easily it was to add or modify an item already in his basket. And so he said it was easy. I would play the video for you, but go to here and you'd be able to play the video for yourself and see if you like it. I think it's a smart move. Speaking of workforce, Tinder parent, Tinder, the app, which is parent company is Match Group, is cutting 6% of its workforce as the online dating company works to revive growth and fend off activist investors. So they have activist investors swirling around them and they're looking to fend them off. They're saying they're going to lay off 6%. It stems from the company's plan to shutter live stream features. They're expected to save about 13 million annually from this. Match is testing new products and services, including infusing AI. That's AI again. Of course, everyone's going to infuse AI in some way, shape, or form. And so they're going to try to do that. We'll see if that works, but it's a way for them to really try to save costs. And unfortunately for this woman, she said the unfortunate part of working for a tech company is seeing the loss of your job being a headline news. I'm glad some of the people within the space are being swapped to the AI division, but it's heartbreaking to know about 150 people lost their jobs globally. Also feeling for my Bungie friends who had some of this sort of shock this morning. So unfortunate for Samantha, unfortunate for some of the people within that company. And that's just par for the course, folks, unfortunately. Let's run into question of the week and see what we have. First one, I want to stick with the entrepreneurship theme here today. First one being, what are the top three industries, not percentage, what are the top three industries for Hispanic/Latinx owned businesses? Top three for Hispanic and Latin owned businesses, Latinx owned businesses. There's about 375,000 Hispanic Latinx owned businesses in the country, it looks like. And what do they most make up of? I don't know. I actually really don't know. That's going to be a good point. But let's go right to the answer here. Construction is number one. It says accommodation and food service and professional, scientific, and technology services rounds up the list. Um, and this is taken from a U.S. Census Bureau, so right from the U.S. Census economic data. Roughly 16% construction, had a bunch of employees, 13% accommodation and food service, and the last was professional technology. So that's a really interesting data point there. Let's look at the next question. What are the three most popular fast food brands in the US? I think we've done this one before and I forgot the answers, but let's go right to it. Chick-fil-A, Jimmy John's, KFC. We could have guessed that together. Um, big news day. It'll be an exciting week. I'll be off for a couple of weeks. I may record our next week's session today just to get that out to you guys so you can listen to it and have something to listen to over the week while I'm out. And my system will be able to take care of anything needed. But of course, we thank you all for listening. As always, we'll potentially see you next week. Thank you for listening.